one day somebody does something unspeakable to someone else, to someone you hardly knew, and you do something about it, because you can.
This story comes to us from courthousenews.com. And this is a story where a street preacher garnered a victory. And it may even be a victory for the First Amendment. But a Seattle street preacher won a case before the Ninth Circuit in a ruling that prohibits Seattle police from arresting him for reading the Bible at public events, even when it incites hostile reactions. Now, the quote here is, curtailing speech based on the listener's reaction is rarely, if ever the least, restrictive means to achieve the government's interest in safety, close quote. That's by U.S. Circuit Judge J.S. Bybee, a George W. Bush appointee. He was joined by senior U.S. Circuit Judge M. Margaret McKeown, a Bill Clinton appointee, and Daniel A. Bress, a Donald Trump appointee. So these three judges did this ruling. Now, the street preacher in the case, Matthew Meineke, was arrested after reading the Bible passages at two public events in 2022. One of the events Meineke attended was an abortion rally held in response to the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs versus Jackson, the Women's Health Organization, June 24th of 2022. In his original civil rights lawsuit, Meineke said that after an hour of walking on a sidewalk with a sign while reading biblical verses and handing out literature, protesters surrounded him and one took his Bible away. Undeterred, Meineke began reading from a second Bible. After 15 minutes, he said a different person tore up his Bible pages before a group of so-called Antifa members carried him to the other side of the street. Meineke then moved 30 feet away. Before long, he said a different protester knocked him down and took his shoes away, so he couldn't walk, I guess. When the police responded, Meineke claimed that they asked him to move across the street. He did not. Now, he's the victim, remember that. The Seattle Pride Fest, the other event referenced in Meineke's complaint, is an annual LGBTQ plus pride event. And during the Pride Fest on June 26th of 2022, Meineke said he spent most of the day preaching without issue, though he said one person poured water on his Bible and a few others yelled at him or barked like a dog. Woo, 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 woo. 10 officers eventually approached Meineke. He said that this time they asked him to leave the park. He did not. He's just preaching. He's just reading the Bible. On both occasions, Seattle police arrested Meineke under a city ordinance that punishes citizens for disobeying, there you go, police orders to stop a behavior, even if it's protected speech, when it risked injury to any person in the area. This time, place, and manner restriction prompted Meineke to sue the city and its police department in March of 2023. Before we get to the lawsuit here, I just wanted to mention, so even protected speech, if it causes the risk of other people, you can be arrested. So if I went to, let's say, I'm just going to flip it since I'm a Christian. I went to a park where a group of Christians were, and I said, hey, how come you don't accept this? Or how come you don't accept that? What's going on? This church does not accept this. And I'm just talking, and they get all upset and they start throwing rocks at me. The police can ask me to leave or arrest me because my speech is causing them to react with hostility. That's kind of what I'm seeing here. All he was doing was reading the Bible. He created hostility with them just through his First Amendment. Don't we always say feelings don't trump the Constitution? Well, in this case, it did. Because instead of going after the people that victimized this guy, pouring water on him, taking his shoes, ripping his Bible up, that's property damage. No, the cops arrest him because his free speech is causing them to act up. Isn't that the tail wagging the dog? I digress. So in the lawsuit, Meineke requested an injunction preventing the Seattle police from further arresting him for his preaching. Now, U.S. District Judge Barbara Jacobs Rothstein, a Jimmy Carter appointee, denied that motion in June of 2023. Go figure. According to Rothstein, the Seattle police never asked Meineke to leave the public events, only that he move a safer distance away to prevent conflict or risk arrest. So he's just out there reading the Bible, you know. They're victimizing him, and the cops say, hey, man, you're causing the conflict. How? By reading the Bible? I understand. Free speech that causes other people to create a conflict, you're the one creating it. What? I'm lost here. The police's response to Meineke's resistance was neutral. That's what the judge decided, Rothstein. Though a Ninth Circuit panel ruled otherwise after an appeal hearing early February of this year. Quote, even assuming that the officers simply instructed Meineke to cross the street, their directions burden Meineke's speech, close quote. That's by Judge Bybee, the Bush appointee. And he wrote that in his order. Goes on, Meineke had a right, just as those participating in the anti-Dobbs rally or the celebration of Pride Fest, to use public sidewalks and streets for the peaceful dissemination of his views, says Bybee. He noted that when police single out a non-threatening speaker for discipline, the government is choosing sides in a debate while using a statute to enforce that decision. He said in this case, the restriction on speech amounted to what's called content-based heckler's vetoes, in which opposing party triggers an event that silences a speaker. He says the officers could have required the protesters to take a step back from Meineke. They could have called for more officers, as they did after Meineke was arrested. They could have erected a free speech barricade. They could have warned the protesters that any sort of physical altercation would result in the perpetrator's arrest, not this guy doing free speech. He goes on, and they could have arrested the individuals who ultimately assaulted Meineke. Hey, wow, there's a thought. They could have arrested the people assaulting this guy. No, they arrest the guy doing the free speech. Isn't that like when we record the police and somebody starts yelling at us and we're just standing recording the guys yelling at us and they tell the camera person, can you go away? You're causing a disturbance. I'm causing it. I'm standing here recording. Yeah, but you're causing them to get upset. Okay, that's not my fault. That's their fault. Talk to them. That's what this judge is saying. Since the police did none of those things and failed to cite less restrictive methods of avoiding violence, the Ninth Circuit panel reasoned that Meineke established a likelihood of success on his First Amendment claim. He said, we reverse the district court and remand with instructions to enter a preliminary injunction consistent with this opinion in favor of Meineke. That's Judge Bybee. That's what he concluded. So basically, the Ninth Circuit said, hey, you can stand out there and exercise your free speech. And if people get upset and they start a conflict or they start acting with hostility or violence, the police can't arrest you. They have to go after the people causing the disturbance. That's a Ninth Circuit ruling right there. So when you're out there recording the police, that's part of your First Amendment. And if people start getting upset under the Ninth Circuit ruling, you can say, hey, they're causing the disturbance, not me. Ninth Circuit ruling. Seattle versus Meineke. Or is it Meineke versus Seattle? Yeah, Meineke versus Seattle. That's a ruling, guys. There you go. Meineke versus Seattle. Note it down. We can now go out there and exercise our First Amendment rights, lawfully, of course. And if other people get upset, they can't tell us you're causing the disturbance, go away. They have to talk to the people who are causing the disturbance.